Hello everyone and welcome back to my macrame black cat tutorial. Today I have a new one for you guys. It is a pendant necklace. We're gonna do whites and 3 variations of pink, dark, light, and medium, I guess. Sort of a bright pink. And we're gonna do also a matching bracelet after this series is complete. Screenshot of the materials you're going to need for this. This is what it's going to look like when we're all done. And this rose quartz cabochon is the one that we wrapped in a previous video. It's an introduction to how to wrap a stone. Anyways, here are the materials I'm using as far as cords go. Also, we'll be using more Chinese knotting cord to tie the ropes to the stone. So, okay, let's get right into it. So that's the front and that's the back. The back has the flat. It's a flat back cabochon. So on one side we're going to do 14 cords and on the other side we're going to do 14 cords. But you have to do it in kind of like a... You start from the very top, just as for the back part, not for the front part. So you start from the very first loophole, and you can see right there on this side, we're going to be doing the light pink colors to sew our white cords onto. This is for the back, and this is for the bottom, which will become the leaf pattern that I like to do for the underneath design of this. And once you sew it on, just pull the cord so that they're even at the ends. And mine are, I think, a little bit longer than what I wrote that you guys should use. It's because when I'm doing design, I always like to make my cords longer. But I realize that you probably don't need them to be that long. So if you're conscious about your string and how much you're using, you can do it the shorter length that I mentioned in the screenshot that showed materials. So now we're going to do every other one. So there's light pink, dark pink, light pink, dark pink. For this side, we're going to do all light pinks. And we're going to do 13 on one side, 13 on the other, and then I'm going to show you how to put the 14th one in on each side for a total of 28. There will be a total of 28 white cords around this whole thing. I don't know why I did a tiny slow motion there in this part of the video. I guess so you could just clearly see, like, when you're putting your needle in, it goes through 2 little cords, and if you have wrapped it correctly, the outside of your cabochon has the bumpy part, right? So that was 1, 2, 3 through both little loops, and you just pull it through. And then make sure that your ends are at the same length, so pull them so that they're even. And you just keep going until you've done 13 of the light pink. If you've done it the way I've done it, in the video that shows you how to wrap a stone cabochon, I wound up doing 52 loops on each side, and when you put it together to wrap the stone, it would be 52 on the top and 52 on the bottom. So I'm just showing you do every other one, but stop at 13 and then start the other side, which in this particular case winds up being the dark pink. So now we've gone to the other side, and I'm going to start doing the same thing, just threading them in with the dark pink. Okay, and it'll be every other one, which in this case is dark pink. That's kind of the nice thing about doing it in these 3 different colors with the white that I knotted onto, and then, oh, I did something wrong. I pulled it through, I think, all the way accidentally. Is that one side is one color and the other side is other color, but that's only for the back. For the front, when we start to add the pinks, it's going to be a little different. But unfortunately, I did sort of skip over that part, but I'm going to show you where the strings should be, because it's a little bit different. It's a little bit odd. I had to start one side one way and the other side a different way. It was the only way to get my strings to line up, because I wanted to do 3 variations of pink, and when you only have so many things to add color to, I'm explaining it wrong again. You have to sort of like math it, and the way it works out is like one starts a little bit higher than the other. Okay, anyways, I'm just showing you hopefully clearly how you guys are adding these cords on. If you've never done anything like this before. So there, I'm just showing you to keep going until you've finished. Okay, so I've come to the point where I did 13 on one side, light pink, 13 on the other side, dark pink, and now I have 2 in the middle left over, but I'm gonna go ahead and add strings to both of those, and so it will be like 4 at the very bottom that are all right next to each other with no gaps in between. You know, the reason for this is you want to make sure that I have enough strings to do the design I want, and just to make sure that there's no gaps. Like when I add the Chinese knotting cord to secure this to the wrap, it ensures like a tight, snug, and neat looking finish. I guess basically that's the main thing. Okay, so that's what it looks like, just adding the white. And before I add the pink, hi kitty, I'm gonna go ahead and use my Chinese knotting cord to secure both sides of the white to the stone. Okay, I'm just separating out, and make sure that you do not cut any of the Chinese knotting cord that you use to wrap the stone with, like those pink ones hanging down. You will need those to make make it into a necklace, to make it into a pendant. I do like a tail at the top and then curve it back and tie it to the back to make my pendant. Okay, so I'm putting a pin where the 2 sides separate. So when I'm doing my knots, I can just end it without having to count or figure out where I'm at. But there will be 14 on one side, 14 on the other side, and they meet at the bottom, and yeah, so we'll just pick a middle spot. Doesn't really matter. Oh, I'm just showing you that I'm using Chinese 0.8 millimeter Chinese knotting cord to secure my white wax cords I just added to the stone. Okay, so you just like, you can do from middle to middle, but I need a little more at the top and a little less at the bottom, so it's a little bit not quite half, smaller side going towards the bottom and the longer part going towards the top, and the top is where you can see pink and white coming from the left side of the screen. So you just, it doesn't really matter, you just pick a spot in the middle and pin it down into the stone so it's nice and secure, and you can start your knotting. Okay, I'm gonna start going down towards the bottom, and you just make sure that your cords are not overlapping each other, and you just do a double knot for each string. So then when you come to the next string, just make sure that they're even and not overlapping, that you're doing them in a row, one at a time. Okay, this is pretty straightforward. And you know, just take your time and make sure that everything is even and everything is nice and neat and secure. You can make sure that they're tightly on there. Okay, I think I just sped the video up a little bit because hopefully you're good with what you're doing, and we can get to the good stuff a little bit faster. Okay, and then you just remove the pin, and I just stuck the pin there for, you know, whatever, and you keep going. Now we're moving on to the top half, and you do the same thing, just going up instead of down, or if you prefer, left instead of right. Yeah, so I wanted to film this entire thing before I put anything up on YouTube. So I have the whole thing, but I still need to put it up in parts because I put all of my little videos into this to see how long it was, and it was like over 3 hours long. I think that's just way too long for one video. And also, I don't think I could sit there for 3 hours and try to do a voiceover all in one session. So this will be in 3 videos, and that will complete the entire pendant part. Not the necklace, just the pendant. Okay, so you can see we've done one side, and we'll do the other side. And it's the same thing. You just take a Chinese knotting cord separate, and do a little bit longer for the top, a little bit shorter for the bottom. I think I did mine like 120 centimeters, but it probably doesn't need to be that long. But if you want to make sure that you have enough, you can cut it that long. I always buy a lot of extra of the Chinese knotting cord, so I don't worry about how much string I'm using. So we're starting at the bottom again, or in this case, since we're on the opposite side, now we're doing the left first. And it's all the same, just double knots for each string. 1, 2 makes a knot, see? And you just go into your finish. Sorry, I think my legs were doing something and I had to adjust. Yeah, so my pillow sits on my lap when I do this, and I have my camera attached to the, you know, the light thing that holds my phone camera, and it sits overhead of what I'm doing. So sometimes I have to adjust and move the pillow around to get the angle I need to knot, to make my knots. And those are the 2 Chinese knotting cords, and I'm gonna just cross them over and tie them together. And now we move to the top half, or the right, and we'll finish with the white. Then I'm going to, it's gonna skip to a screen that already has all the pink on there. I think that I had an issue and I had to redo it, and I didn't film it, and I sort of regret that now, but I'm gonna try to show you slowly like where each pink cord should go. So I hope that isn't going to be a problem for you if you're doing this project. Okay, and this is the last 2. Brings us to the top of it. And that's done. So now you've used 2 separate Chinese knotting cords, one on one side, one on the other, to knot your white cords, which will be the underneath bottom part of this design. You can just push it down so you make sure you have room to add the pink on top. Okay, and all of those pink cords, you should keep them there. I know you'll just have to keep moving them out of your way as you go through the project, but you'll need them to make this into a pendant, or at least that's how I do it. All right, so yeah, so the next little video is me showing you where the pink cords go. Okay, so if you're looking at if you're doing, okay, from the right side, we're gonna do, say, right and left side. I have 3 of the dark pink on top and 3 of the dark pink on bottom, 3 of the medium pink, and 4 of the light pink. So for this, I start with the very first loop, and it's a light pink, and those 3 cords are all right next to each other with no gap. Then for the medium pink, there's a gap in between each one. So like I'm showing you there, like make sure that there's a gap in between each one. There's a gap between the dark pink and the light pink. And for the medium pink. And for the light pink, do one gap, then add your light pink, then 2 right next to each other with no gap, 3, the third one will have a gap, fourth one will have no gap, so 2 and 2 right next to each other, then a gap in between the medium pink, medium pink has a gap, medium pink has a gap, then a gap in between the dark pink, and those 3 are right next to each other with no parts in between. Now on the left side, we have to start 1 down, so not the very top. You'll see there's a dark pink one there. We're not gonna start there because otherwise it doesn't turn out evenly on both sides. And add your 3 dark pinks right next to each other, 3 loops right next to each other with no gaps, and then a gap in between, and do the medium pink, gap in between each 3 of the medium pinks. I hope this is making sense and you're following along. You really should pause the video and see where they're at if you aren't able to follow along, okay? Just keep pausing the video, look at where I added the strings and where I left the gaps. So it's the same on both sides, but the difference being that on the left side, I had to start 1 down than I did from the other one. And it is the way that they line up when you look at each other straight on, right? Because it's like, it's hard to explain. It's just the way that I wind up having to do these with this design style that I have. Okay. So yeah, so just to make sure that you want them to be I like it to be as symmetrical as possible, so that's why I have to do it this way. And the last 3 are all right next to each other with 1 gap in between both sides at the very bottom. Okay, so just come back to this section if you didn't quite get what I was doing. Pause and watch where each string is going on each side. And if you're doing a similar thing but with different colors, or like the same color, like I didn't have to worry about that with the black and red because it was all just one color. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm going to add another Chinese knotting cord in the middle here and knot the pink strings onto it. So we use 4 extra Chinese knotting cords to get all of the strings attached to this. Okay, and we do it just like we did the white, just 1 at a time right next to each other. Make sure your ends are even and that you're not that the strings are not overlapped. They can get like, when you sew them on like that, sometimes they can go like behind each other or in a weird way, so you have to make sure that the ones you're knotting are like the same string, like the 2 are 1. Yeah, so I hope that all made sense about how I added these pink strings on. You just want them to be even when you're looking at it. So on one side I started at the very top one and then other side I had to start one down. But yeah, like every project I do is always so slightly different. That's why I hesitated for such a long time to make these tutorials, because it's not, although you can math it out in a way, it's still not always a perfect science, because you're choosing to do different strings, and even these strings, even though I think they're all 1 millimeter, they're not all exactly the same. The dark pink ones are a tiny bit thicker than the light pink ones right next to it. Light pink ones, excuse me. And so that's why it winds up being like where I have to adjust where they go around the cab, because I realize once I start doing it, like, oh, this isn't, it doesn't look symmetrical to me, so I have to adjust it, like put one up, put one down, you know, one slot up or one slot down. And that's what I figured out I had to do here. And by the time I figured that out, I think I was kind of not wanting to film anymore. I know that sounds terrible, but anyways. All right, so we're just knotting the pinks onto a Chinese knotting cord in white. And I was able to leave a gap at the bottom because those dark pinks, like I said, are thicker. Okay, now I've switched to the other side. I pulled my white threads underneath, so I think you could see a little easier what I'm doing. It is a little bit sped up, this part of the video, and maybe that's why it's a little out of focus. Oh, there it goes. I will complete the top half and finishing off with the bottom half. So you'll wind up with six, did I do three? Yeah, 6 dark pinks on the top, then 6 medium pinks, then 8 light pinks, then 6 medium pinks, then 6 dark pinks. So the way I do it is sort of like top and bottom, half and half, and that's why I've chosen to do the colors this way. I'll do like the same design on the top and bottom, but one pointing towards the top and one pointing towards the bottom, and that's just you know, how I like to do it. It's sort of my design style. Okay, and so that's the bottom, and we're finishing tying the 2 strings together. Hang on a second. Okay, hopefully my thing didn't get out of sync. I had a tiny pause there. Alright, so now we're just showing you everything with your four Chinese knotting cords that we added, one for each side, top and bottom. 2 for white, 2 for pink, one side, right side, left side. Okay. And you can see how they sort of line up. If I had done it a different way, if I had started at the same side on both sides, it wouldn't have worked out. All right, so we're gonna jump right into 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And that's how I usually do it by half and half. All right, so we're going to take one cord from the bottom and one cord from the top, or one from the left and one from the right. And we're just going to put it up off to the side because we're not going to use them at all. And I'm going to count out 8 strings on the top, 8 strings on the bottom, or left and right. And we're going to start doing our first leaves for the underneath bottom part. And just take the ones in the middle and just flip them up to get them off your way for now. And if you've seen my previous videos, you already know how to do this. If not, if this is your first time tuning in to watch one of my tutorials, I'm going to show you how you can make 3, it's like 3 on the bottom half and 3 on the top half leaves that are connected to each other. So you start with 1 string and you go up in a row, knotting each string onto your 1 holding cord. And this will be an 8-leaf, 8-string leaf, pardon me. And you just do double knots for each string. That is the way of macrame. Okay, so that's still 8 strings. Now you leave the last one and start with the next one over, and you go in the same direction. In this case, we're going from left to right, knotting each string on to the one you're holding. And don't forget to leave that bottom one off or you won't have a leaf pattern. That's how this works. Okay, that one, and you will knot that one I left there like so. Okay, this is the foundation of making a leaf. And then take the bottom one off, leave it off, and start with the next one over and go up the same way, knotting all cords. And don't forget to add that one that usually just sits off on its own. It is still included in this whole thing. Okay, now leave the third one. And we have 3 now left off. Take the next one right next to it and go up, knotting from left to right, adding each cord as you go. Okay, so now we're at the point where now we're taking our 4th one off, and we have 4 left. Take the one right next to it, knot 1, second cord, and that top one, make sure to knot it. Okay, now leave that one off, so that will make 5, 3, 4, 5. And we're down to our last 3. And make sure to knot that top one. And now we're left with 2. Okay, and you're going to take the top one and underneath cross over and make a knot. This will be the tip of your leaf. Okay, now I gotta flip my board around so I can show you how to do this. Take a T-pin and insert it right at the very tip. This gives you something to wrap around that creates the shape. So you take that first cord and that second cord and you do a double knot right around the pin. Then you take those same 2 cords and cross the one you were holding underneath and knot. Now, see that? And now take that 3rd cord and attach it. This will be our first contact, going back down to create the leaf. And each time you've connected, you're going to start at the top and work your way down again. So you take that first cord and knot the second and the third, and this will be our connecting cord. Right? So now you have 4 cords there and 4 cords left. So go back to the top. And knot down all the cords in a row. See that one knots before the connecting one. Okay. And you can see how you're starting to make the shape of a leaf. Leaves can be done in any amount of cords. You can do it with 4, you can do it with 5, 6, 7, 8. The more cords you use, obviously the bigger your leaf will be. When I get to the top pink part, I do a 4 cord leaf and a 5 cord leaf. For this bottom part with the white, I start with 8. The second one will be 8, the third one will be 7, and that's on just one side, and then on the other side, going in the opposite direction, I also have 8, 8, and 7, and then you flip it around and tie both sides together in the middle from the back side. But I'll show you all that. So every time you get to the point where you're connecting a new cord, like right now. That'll be like the 6th one. 7 is the holding, and we just have one more to go to finish this. One. We still have 2 more leaves on the bottom or the right side, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. But I think I'm gonna do the first leaf on the top or left side before I get into doing the middle ones. I'm just pulling my cords back to give a better view. Hopefully you guys can see what's going on. Alright, and that will finish that one. 2, 4, 6, and 8 strings. Start with 8, end with 8. Okay, and now I'm just gonna start with the other side. I think I sped this part up. We're doing the exact same thing, just in the opposite direction. Start from right to left or from bottom to top for this one. Even it's only at 2 times speed, so hopefully you can still see what I'm doing. I try to always remind you guys, like, whenever you're learning to do something new from a tutorial, if you need to pause and rewind the video, I would absolutely recommend doing that. It's how I learned to do most of my techniques. When I first started learning macrame, whatever I was learning from a tutorial, I oftentimes just would pause and rewind the video if there was something I didn't quite catch. Okay, see, we're just doing the same thing, but just going in the opposite direction as the other leaf. Leave one off and move to the next string over and continue your row, including all strings. Leave one off, grab the next one over, go back up, up, down, whatever. I know I'm at the top because of the Chinese knotting cords that I used to wrap the stone with. Okay, and almost. Take those 2 and okay, take your T-pin to give yourself something to wrap around. It makes it easier to form the tip. You can actually see it a little better at this angle. And I just pushed my pin all the way in to make it more steady so it wasn't moving around on me. Sorry for, like, points where I don't talk throughout the video. It's just, I'm kind of watching what's going on as you are. Alright, getting close to finishing the 8-string leaf on the top side, and you can see now we got one facing top or left and one facing bottom or right. Same. Okay, now you've made 2 leaves on each side, 2, 4, 6, 8 strings. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna connect and do another leaf. We're gonna take 2 strings. I think I'm just counting how many there are. 2, 4, 5 on each side, but take 2 strings for the bottom one, 2 strings for the top one. Okay, we're going to use these to start a new leaf. First, we're going to take those 2 strings that we grabbed from the middle, cross them over each other, and make a double knot. So one becomes our new holding cord for the moment, and just knot every string coming off of the first leaf onto that string. Okay, we're at the last one now, and with these 2 strings we're going to take them away because we added 2. We're going to take 2 away. We will use them, but later, and you're still going to have 8 strings. 2, 4, 6, 8, because we added 2 from the middle, and we're going to take the top 2 ones and leave them out for now. So, and we're going to start with the second leaf. Leave the first one off because we don't really need to make another row to make the second leaf. And you just go up the same way we did with the first leaf, one at a time, each string going up. Okay? Now we leave the second one off and take the one right next to it and go up same way. Make a new row. So again, this is still an 8-string leaf. We took 2 cords from the middle, knotted them going up, and then the top 2 ones we just tucked away off to the side to use at a later time. Okay, third one leave off, grab the one right next to it, So I mentioned already that I did finish filming this whole project, but I will probably upload this one when it's done, and I probably won't upload the next ones till at least tomorrow, just because I can't sit and record the things I need to say, because it's, like I said, it's like a 3.5 hour long altogether session for this pendant. So I had to break it up into 3 parts. It's just too much to do all at once. Okay, we're down to the last 3. And with those last 2 cords, take the one on the top, put it under, and use it to knot onto that cord. Okay, now what I'm going to do, just to save myself a little time and from having to not flip my board around so much, is I'm just going to go ahead and start the leaf on the opposite side, and do that, and then I'll flip it around and finish both leaves at the same time. So it's just the same thing. Take those 2 strings that we took from the middle, tie it together, use one as your holding cord to go up. When you get to the top, take the last 2 strings and just move them off to the side. I usually just put it underneath the leaf that I have made and pin it so it's off my way, because we're not going to use it right now, but we will use it later. I had a couple moments where my screen froze, so hopefully everything is still in sync according to my voice and what's going on the video. Okay, we're just doing the same thing, just on the other side in the opposite direction. Leave the very first one off, grab the one right next to it, and start making rows going towards the top or to the left if you prefer. Okay, now we're at the last two again. You take the one that was the top and go underneath and use that as your knotting cord to knot on top of the second string. Alright, so I finished doing the ladder for each leaf on each side. Now I'm going to flip my board around and finish the second leaf on each side. So use a T-pin to make your starting point, and you're just going to do the same thing that we did in the first leaves. Okay. The first two strings get crossed over to make the third and fourth knot, and then you connect it with the second string there, and you keep starting at the top each time and working your way down. My camera keeps going in and out of focus because of my hands. Sorry about that. Okay, just take the first one and keep going down. Every time you make a connecting point, which is a string coming from the leaf part, you start at the top again. That's really all there is to it, to making a leaf. See, I'm trying to show you, like, I would call that the fourth connecting point. And you can see there are like 3 holes in the leaf at this point. I'm really sorry for the in and out of focus. It's really because of my hands. I don't realize that when it's filming it. But it's all right. Okay, so I should have 2 more rows to go. And again, this is the second one is still an 8-string leaf. It might look a little bit, to me it always looks a little bit smaller. I don't know, it's just because of its position, I think. But it is the same size, really. But you have a row separating them, essentially, those 2 that we left off. But it's all still the same strings except for one that we added from the middle. Well, really we added 2, but we only wound up using 1. Okay, last one for this side. And then I'll do the same thing for the second leaf on the other side. Okay, and just to make it a little easier, I just tuck those strings in so I can do this other one without anything interfering, no other strings getting in my way. And I did go ahead and speed this part of the video up because it's doing the exact same thing you just did. Okay, one more row for the second one, technically the fourth. Okay. I'll flip my board back around. Alright, so for the third leaf on each side, I'm only going to use one string. So these leaves will only be 7-string leaves. And those 4 chords left over in the middle, we wind up not using them at all for this design. But I just wait until I flip it over to cut it before I cut them off. Alright, so we'll take that one string and knot up the same way you did for the second one. This is now forming the third leaf on the right side or bottom, same. And just like the other one, when you get to the last 2 chords, we're going to take those and put them off to the side because we're not going to use them for this third leaf, but it will be used later in the design. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 chords there. And I'll do the, no, not yet. So you'll have 7 strings now to make this third leaf with. 3, 2, 4, 6, 7. Yep. Leave the first one off and start with the one right next to it and go up in the same way you just did the previous leaf. Okay, and the top two ones get crossed over to form the tip. And just like I did with the last sets of leaves, I'm gonna go ahead and knot the other side up so I don't have to flip my board around so much. So we're taking one string from the middle and knotting it all the way up. And when you get to the top, leave the top two strings off. We're not going to use them for the third leaf, which will technically be the sixth leaf. You're going to have 3 from the left or top and 3 from the right or bottom, however which way you'd prefer to say it. Okay, take those 2 and just tuck them away. Leave the bottom one off and start going up. And there was 7 strings, same as the other side. Take the top 2 strings, cross them over. Sorry, it's a little at the bottom of the screen there. Finally I adjusted. Okay. So then I flip my board around and finish the last 2 leaves. Okay, so this is the last string for the third leaf on the top side. I'm just gonna sort of fold them under so I can do the other half. And yeah, I sped this part up a little bit because I think it's fine. And as you're making this third on the bottom side, or the sixth one in total, you can see that they just perfectly sit next to each other, which is what I want. I want them to be right next to each other. And we'll take the cords that are left over and flip the thing upside down and tie them from the back before we cut them, so they'll be secured to each other, so there won't be any like flopping or gaps or anything like that. It's the only way I found to do these leaf designs like this. You have to do 3 or however many you want from one side, and then do the same thing on the opposite side but in the opposite direction, and then just like tie them from the back. And that's what it looks like. They just snugly fit there together. And those leftover strings will just be cut and burned. Sometimes I would use them to add another row, but I'm not going to do that this time because I think they're close enough together. Okay, and I'm just showing you the 2 strings from the first one we left off, the 2 strings from the second one we left off on each side. Those will be used in the design part when we start to do like the top and bottom, when I add beads to the top and the bottom. Okay, I'm trying to remember what I do next here. I think that's it. Off the camera, I went ahead and knotted the other side. The 6 leaves the exact same way I showed you, and I'm just showing you what it looks like now with all the leaves on both sides done. I haven't cut anything or done anything like that yet. So you still have all your Chinese knotting cords coming off the top intact. You don't want to do anything with those. You should have 4 Chinese knotting cords at the bottom that you use to tie the white and the pink onto the stone. And what do I do next? Okay, so to end this video, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the white strings. I'm gonna first tie them together and then cut them, because I know I'm not gonna need them at this stage. So there will be 4 cords that we didn't use in the middle, and all the cords coming from the 2 leaves. Okay. Just trying to make sure I find the right cords. Take the top 2 and just tie them together, double knot, and keep going down like that. Take the ones next to each other in a line, tie them together, leave them next to, tie them together. This is how we're connecting the 2 leaves, 2 sides of the leaf sets that we did, and how we can cut and burn these off and get them off our way. It looks like I added beads on the top and bottom. I think I might have added this video out of order, but I think it's all right. You'll see in the next video how I do that. I think I just did this because it was still the leaf part. So you just cut them off, but don't cut the strings that you left at the tops. Those 2 strings that we left at the top, you can see them there. Leave those. Don't do anything with them. In this little section, you can see that I did do some design work with the top, but I will go back and show you how I did that in the next video. I think I just wanted to show you how you could go ahead and cut and burn these white cords so they're just not in your way, because I know for 100% fact that I'm not going to use them. Typically I don't like to cut any strings at all until the very, very end of my project, but I already know at this point, so it's all right. If you're not sure, if you don't know, if you're still experimenting with your design, I really would highly recommend to just not cut any strings until you're absolutely 100% sure that this is the direction that you want to go and that you're happy with the design and the way that it turned out. If for some reason anything looks off or wonky or weird, you can always, unknot what you've done and redo it. I can't tell you how many times I've done that, countless times. It's part of design. So just be sure that you're happy with it, that it is the way you need it to be before you cut and burn anything. This is much easier to go back and undo things before you cut anything. Once you've cut it, it's pretty final. Okay, then I'll just burn those edges, and then I think I'm going to end this video. And don't worry about what looks like I've done some work already. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right. So I'm just separating my top and my bottom. All I did was take 6 cords from the top and 6 cords from the bottom, added a bead, and then took the first 2 strings coming from the first set of leaves and did like a rope thing and tied it in there. All right, but I'll show you that in the next video. Okay, so stay tuned for that. It'll be coming up shortly. Thanks for watching. Okay, bye.